you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown.
Ever been downtown and thought, what's there to do in Lynchburg? Besides Liberty, there's quite a few restaurants and shops to discover and enjoy. However, there are two unique landmarks that seem to be overlooked for one's personal engagement and entertainment. First, the Lynchburg Museum, formerly known as the Lynchburg Courthouse. Originally constructed in 1855, this structure represents an amazing example of Greek Revival architecture. In addition, it has accomplished two distinguished honors. Its recent selection of being both a nominee for Virginia's Landmark Register along with being listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. Secondly, the Calvin Falwell Field is another landmark and attraction of all residing in and near the Hill City. This is home to the legendary Lynchburg Hillcats. After construction, it became the inaugural site for the first Major League game between the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers on April 11, 1940, to a crowd of nearly 7,000. So sit back, relax, and prepare for an exciting educational road trip as we explore Lynchburg.
The first thing you need to know about museums is there really is no typical day. We all do a wide variety of things. My main duties focus on taking care of the artifacts. That's what a curator does. We take care of the stuff and put together exhibits. We have children's groups come in and do administrative things. This building is the 1855 courthouse, and it was actually the courthouse for Lynchburg up until the early 1970s. And the museum system started around the bicentennial in 1976. And we moved into this building in 1978. However, people began collecting for a future museum in the 1930s. What I like the most about it is the different people that I get to meet and the different parts of Lynchburg's history. My background is in American history, but I never wanted to be a teacher. I got into the museum field, and so I really like that I get to research different aspects of history, not only for exhibits, but for people who come in with questions, who call and say, hey, I've got this old thing, I don't know what it is, can you help me figure it out?
Prior to Lauren's current position as a Lynchburg Museum curator, she once was employed at both the Marshall and Stonewall Jackson House Museums in Lexington, Virginia. There are several connections between both Lexington museums and Lynchburg. First, former curator of the Lynchburg Museum employed in the late 1970s became the Stonewall Jackson House Museum director. Second, the Lynchburg Museum has a photograph of General George Marshall in its collection. The connections to Lynchburg are quite noteworthy. General Marshall was born on New Year's Eve 1880 in Uniontown, Pennsylvania. This small southwestern Keystone State town is located 46 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. General Marshall served as Chief Staff of the U.S. Army for both Franklin Roosevelt's and Harry Truman's administrations. In addition, Marshall occupied the offices of Secretary of State and the American Red Cross President. Most notably, his biggest accomplishment was as Defense Secretary. Along with his military experience, Marshall was the advocate for the Marshall Plan, a U.S. economic assistance program supporting Western Europe. Did you know that Uniontown was founded on America's first Independence Day in 1776? Plus, it also played an important role in the Underground Railroad, helping slaves escape the South to freedom.
The most famous Lynchburger to have stopped by recently is Leland Melvin, and he is a former astronaut as well as a professional football player, and he does things for NASA and is on TV. He recently wrote a book, so he stopped in the last few months. Actually going to open an exhibit on aviation featuring different Lynchburg aviators. And we are also going to do an exhibit on civil rights.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
who played in Lynchburg and gone into the big leagues. And the names I hear the most from the people in Lynchburg is Dwight Gooden, Lenny Dykstra, and Darryl Strawberry. They all played in the early 80s, and they had a really great team here, won almost 100 games. Today, put me in coach. I'm ready to play today. This is the 5th championship that the Hillcats have won. We won in 96, 2002, 2009, 2012, and then this year. So I've got 5 of these rings. I got one for each finger now. Today, put me in coach. I'm ready to play. Lynchburg Cardinals for a while, back in the 50s, and then that affiliation ended, and they became affiliated with the Chicago White Sox, so they were the Lynchburg White Sox. They were affiliated with the Texas Rangers, so they were Lynchburg Rangers. After that was the Lynchburg Twins, when they were the minor league team of the Minnesota Twins. After the Twins came the Mets in the early 80s, the Lynchburg Mets. The Mets, they moved their minor league franchise to Florida because they had a new stadium there. And then the Boston Red Sox became our affiliate, and that's who we were affiliated with when I came here in 1991. And then the Red Sox left after the 94 season. We decided that we would have a name the team contest and come up with our own unique nickname, because a lot of teams were doing that then, and a lot of teams, like, for example, the Durham Bulls had been the Durham Bulls a long time, no matter which major league team they were affiliated. But most teams back in those days took the name of their parent club. But we decided every time you change your name, like when you go from the Cardinals to the Twins, you have to change your stationery, you have to change your signage, you have to change your uniforms. You have to change everything that has the name on it, and then you get a new name. Well, that costs money. When you think about stationery, envelopes, signs, uniforms. So we decided, and the ownership group decided, let's have a name the team contest and keep that name, and no matter what major league team we're affiliated with, we'll always be the Hillcats. So at the end of the 94 season, we had a name the team contest through the newspaper, radio, TV. We had like 100 different suggestions, and I wish I could, and I have a file somewhere, but some people wanted to bring back some of the old names like Shoemakers and the Grays and the Rebels and the Riflemen. A lot of names, the Hangmen, the Lynch Mobs. So some names that we knew were just that's not going to work. So we had a gentleman from Appomattox, and we'd announce the name we select. The person who submitted that name will win a jacket and a season ticket for a couple of years. Well, it's quite involved with our lawyers and the minor league baseball lawyers. You have to make sure nobody else is using that name because they have rights to it. So we decided that we would we would narrow it down to, I think, like 4 names, and then we would narrow it down to one name and then announce what it was. Well, we had River Hawks because of the river, the Otters because of the Otter River, the Hillcats, and maybe the Nighthawks. But so then we had to send those 4 names to the minor league baseball lawyers who operate in Florida. So they had to research those names to make sure that those names weren't being used by anybody. So our staff, Paul and I, we liked the Hillcats. That's what we wanted. We really liked the Hillcats. Lynchburg is the hill city, the city of 7 hills, and I've been told in the foothills there are some little bobcats that roam around, and some people call them, hill cats or mountain cats. And the winner from Appomattox, he came and, we presented him with a jacket and a jersey and a couple of season tickets for a couple of years, and